1, June 2020. I'm Joel Batman Zaritsky, and of course with me is the engineer of wonder, Brett Soul.
Hey guys. Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Good.
Looking forward to the lecture. Looks like it's going to be a fun one again.
Yeah, we're really looking forward for tonight, and thank you for being here and joining us. Hopefully you're staying happy and healthy and enjoying the beautiful weather that we've been having. This is actually a double header we're having in the month of June. For next week is going to be Morgan and West, but that's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern, only because they're on the other side of the pond. So it's like 9 p.m. their time. So 4 p.m. Eastern for Morgan and West. But tonight, our lecturer is a multi-award winning magician. He's performed and lectured around the world, both live and on television. He's created and published more than 1,000 magic routines, books, and videos, and he currently runs some of the most popular websites for magicians and gamblers. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Garden State, Meir Yedid.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Meir Yedid, magician. Do you have proof you're a magician? Anyway, let me tell you about this lecture. But first, let me address my new look. People that have seen me perform or lecture before know this is a new look for me. People who have, purchased my products or my videos know this is a new look for me. I wanted to expand my horizons, expand my career. I wanted to be the next Mr. Clean or maybe even the next Wooly Willy. Anything. I'll do anything for money. And I hope at least one of you laughed at that because thank you. Because I couldn't really hear anything. This is not an interactive lecture, and I understand a lot more people watch the rerun than they do the live event. But I want to address all the live participants first. First, I really want to thank you for being here. What happens is between tricks, between routines, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and one of the SAM superheroes will be reading those questions to me, and I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. Otherwise, this will just be a straight lecture, performance, explanation, and a lot of stories and tips and things in between. Before I officially start the lecture, my Bag of Tricks lecture, I want to tell you about my latest release. It's called Jim Swain's Capitulating Queens. The reason I mention this is twofold. I recently bought the rights, actually fourfold. I recently bought the rights to a lot of Gary Plantz's product lines. And, actually, you know what? Even beyond that, it became final about 4 hours ago. I just got the rights to all of Michael Rubenstein's tricks. So I'll be releasing those in the next few months or even years. But regarding Gary Plantz's Capitulating Queens, Jim Swain's Capitulating Queens that Gary Plantz put out, I decided to change my packaging completely. That's really why I want to show this to you. These are super thin, the card tricks. They're square. They have a nice gold frame. But this allows me to offer free shipping worldwide for the first few weeks of the item's release, which is kind of nice. And I'd like to perform this for you and as a kind of a commercial before we start the lecture. So let's go down here. Let me see, just tighten this a little. Okay. And Joel.
Yep.
I have 4 queens, and I want you to. One of these queens is very, very special, by the way. Which one do you think it is? A black queen or a red queen?
A red queen.
Diamond or a heart?
A diamond.
Okay. And we have not prearranged anything, have we?
Nope. No, we're not.
No? Oh, okay. So watch very carefully because you said the queen of diamonds. Let me show you. All the cards have blue backs except for one card that has a purple back with dogs on it. And that's the queen of diamonds. Cool, right?
Yes.
Wow. But I know what Brett is thinking. What if you would have said the queen of hearts? Well, if you would have said the queen of hearts, I would have shown you that all the cards have blue backs except for one card has a green back, and that was the queen of hearts. But I know what John is thinking. John's thinking, what about the Queen of Clubs? You see, most dog lovers love the Queen of Clubs. They think this looks like puppy feet. I don't know. But if you would have selected the Queen of Clubs, I would have shown you that all the cards have blue backs except for one card that has a red back, and that's the Queen of Clubs. You see, it's the only one with a red back. But what about the Queen of Spades? Somebody out there must be thinking, what about the Queen of Spades? We know the Queen of Spades has a blue back. It was on top of the deck the entire time. What if you would have said the Queen of Spades? Well, I would have had to wave my hand over the cards twice and shown you that all the cards now have red backs, except for one card that still has a blue back, and that would be the Queen of Spades. But what's going on over here? At the beginning, I said only one of these queens were special. Well, actually, I kind of lied. All the queens are special, just like all of you are special, especially the ones coming to see this live. You're very special, and you're very different from each other, just like these queens and just like all people on Earth. And because this is a magic lecture and everybody's watching is a magician, I should explain that all the cards are examinable at the end.
Wow.
And that's capitulating queens. Thank you. So that was the commercial part. So we'll get right into the lecture. I just need to make one adjustment on this. Okay. So I said this is called my Bag of Tricks lecture. And the reason it's called the Bag of Tricks lecture is it's all about this. The first 2/3 of this lecture comes from my bag of tricks. Just like Felix the cat had a bag of tricks, this is Meir's bag of tricks. So after we do the Bag of Tricks lecture, what I'm going to do is have a card session with some really cool stuff. And I'm sure none of you have ever seen this before, unless you are seeing the Zoom lecture for a second or third time. And I know people have seen it 4 times, believe it or not. But this is my bag of tricks. When I leave my house, I throw this into my bag or pocket or in my car, because inside it are the tricks I love to perform for people. And what I want to do is I'm going to open this in a second, remove those tricks one at a time, perform it, and explain it to you. So you'll get to see what I like to do, and I hope I can inspire you to put together your own bag of tricks by the end of this lecture using your favorite magic. But before we even get to the bag of tricks, I should explain what the magician's badge is. I always wanted to have a badge to prove I was a magician. You know, the SAM pin, fine, but I wanted to look official. So what I did is I met a friend of mine, Rich, and Rich owned a company that made the badges for the New York City Police Department, also fire departments around the country. And I asked him about, can you make a badge for magicians? And he said, well, it won't be cheap, but yeah, we could do anything you want. So I contacted my artist, Akemi, who probably designed everything that you've ever seen of mine, even the new cover, The Stars of Magic, that somebody just mentioned. So she designed this with me from scratch. And I want to show you the detail here. There are 2 doves up here, not an eagle, 2 doves, and there's a queen in the middle. There's the word magician to prove you're a magician. There are cups and balls, magic wands, Japanese coins. I also wanted to add a trick to this. So I put in the badge number is the 1089 mathematical force. And I even wanted a card trick in there. So the Queen of Clubs is the only visible card, and that's I used as a revelation. But I like to use it as an intro piece. That's really what I thought of originally. And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to walk up to people with a badge, which often puts them in a uncomfortable position to see somebody walk up to them with a badge. They might think, oh, I have a ticket or something. But once I say magician, Meir Yedid magician, they kind of relax and they become ready to see magic. So I kind of like to do this as an introductory piece, introduce myself, Meir Yedid magician, which always gets a laugh. Because who would have thought a magician would have a badge? Anyway, so the Bag of Tricks lecture, I'm going to open the bag and I'm going to perform things out of the bag for you. And the first item, I'll bring the camera down. Once again, a little too tight today. I'll bring the camera down. And this is a trick with a magic wand. Okay. I'm going to take an imaginary arrow and put it right here on the tip of the wand. So now we have an arrow on this side, but watch, I could take it and put it over here as well. So now we have 2 arrows. If I give them a little shake, both arrows jump to the middle. More little shake, they both jump to the bottom. I could make them move independently. I could take this arrow, move it to the middle. So now we have 1 in the middle and 1 on the bottom. I could take the middle one, shake it to the bottom, but now the bottom one jumps to the middle. I could take the middle one, shake it to the end. Now the end one goes to the middle. But I know it gets confusing. So let me start over. I'll put both arrows on the same side. Now, this is my favorite part. I'll do it slowly. I'll do it one-handed. Watch very carefully. Remember, both arrows are on one side. If I give them a little shake, they both jump to the middle. Remember, they're both in the middle. One more little shake, they both jump to the bottom. And I could, let me make them both jump to the bottom. I can move them at the same time, this with this finger, this with this finger. So now they're both in the middle. So both arrows are in the middle. But watch carefully, keep an eye on this arrow, because all you have to do is that. And now we have two on this side and one on this side. Isn't that the craziest thing you ever saw? So that's the amazing jumping arrow. It was invented by Mark Young. And when he showed it to me, there was one sequence in that routine that completely fooled me. I didn't understand how the arrow was jumping in three positions successively. And that's what was the moment I realized I have to buy the rights to this and I have to put this out. And I'm going to show you that one sequence that you could do it as part of another paddle routine or this routine. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the paddle move if you're not familiar with it. Now, basically, the paddle move is whatever paddle you're using. The proper way to do the paddle move is the paddle sits right on your fingertips, and your thumb pushes that forward. That's it. That's all there is to the paddle move. It's a complete revolution of the paddle. That's all it is. But people will see this thumb movement. How do you hide it? You use misdirection. You see, when you do this forward and backward movement with a thumb, well, simultaneously you're turning your hand over. Okay, so you're doing it as you turn your hand over. It's basically this large motion of the wrist turn hides the secret motion of this happening. Because I've done it every time I just turn my hand, but even if I do it slow, look, you can't see it. That's one move that's used in the routine. Another one has you holding the paddle from the end. Once again, it's the same move, forwards and backwards, but this time the larger motion that hides this paddle move is the forward movement of the hand. You see, the forward movement of the hand makes it impossible for people to see the secret movement of the fingers. And you could do it forwards, you could do it backwards, and that's what you actually do in the routine. So that's the paddle move. And let me show you the sequence that I think is so cool that you should all learn if you have a paddle. Now you'll need a paddle, of course. You could use any stick if you like, but there are two arrows, one on each side. And there's also one arrow in the middle. So two on one side, one on the other. And these are actually made out of metal and they're engraved. I insisted on the manufacturer engraving these because of the depth makes the arrow feel like it's the blur is running through it. So here's the move. You're going to hold it here. Remember, middle arrow is on the bottom. The thumb is hiding this little arrow over here. This arrow is pointing towards you. So you can now do the paddle move, showing the arrow on both sides. Give it a shake. They're now both in the middle. Remember, the shake is just a forward paddle move. And this is the ingenious part that Mark Young came up with, because he wanted the arrow to jump from here to here to here. Well, how can he do that? And it is a minor readjustment of the paddle allows you to do that. And this is the minor adjustment. The index finger goes forward and pushes the arrow completely through. And this allows you not only to show both sides that they're both in the middle, but one shaking action makes it jump to the bottom. So in reality, I'll do it in regular speed. They're both here, they're both in the middle, and they're both on the bottom. And of course, everything is examinable at the end. Any questions on the amazing jumping arrow?
As of right now, no. There's about a 30-second delay, so we'll just see if people type in. That was a great explanation, though.
Okay, so we'll go to the next item. I'm basically a card guy, and this is the card routine I carry in my bag of tricks. So this is my go-to favorite routine. I love doing this routine. I use it as an opener at trade shows, walk around. This is it. the single card routine I've performed more often than any other card routine in my life. And I'd like to share it to you because, like I said, my bag of tricks are the things that I like to do all the time. So we'll go back down. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with with poker, but this is a really, really good poker hand because they're all the same color. On the back. I know the faces are not so hot, but remember, I'm a magician. If I wave my hand over the 5 cards, I could make it look like any poker hand I want. In this case, the royal flush in spades, the best poker hand possible. But even with these cards, I'd lose. You know why? I'd probably even get killed because these cards came from 5 different decks. You see, we have an orange one, a green one, a pink one, a yellow one, and a blue one.
Wow.
So that's Tamaris's Royalistic. Juan Tamaris is one of my heroes. This is his routine. Do we have any questions on the paddle trick by any chance?
Oh, not yet.
Oh, great. So let me tell you about this. Tamaris showed this routine to me more than 20 years ago. I loved it immediately. He taught me how to do it. I started performing it everywhere I went. It was like, I just loved this routine. And every time I saw him since then, I mentioned, I'd love to put this out. And then years later, maybe 15 years later, I said, I really would love to buy the rights to this. And he said, okay. And he sold me the rights. It was a good price. And I was so happy that I was able to put this out and share it with everybody because it's so good. And I'm going to show you how it works. What you need are 7 cards. A royal flush plus 2 extra 2s, okay? The secret is on the back of the jack and the queen. You see the back of your jack has some sticky stuff right in the middle, and the back of the queen has sticky stuff right in the middle. And what that does is when you squeeze the middle of the packet, it steals the 2 extra cards, and it allows you to show both sides. But that's only the secret. As we all know, the secret doesn't mean a thing. You could see secrets to tricks on YouTube. Doesn't mean you could do any of these tricks. It's what goes into making those secrets magical that's important. And that's what I'm going to show you. Tamaris's ingenuity. Once again, genius idea. And that's really what fooled me, is this next part, not the method. So you're holding these 3 as one. You spread these here. You need to show these, the backs of these. That's what really fools magicians. That's what really fooled me. You need to show the backs being all blue, which is very difficult considering there's a green card and an orange card over here. So watch what happens. This is his idea. You could show them as all blue using a subtle piece of misdirection. You'd swear, because you're seeing 5 face cards, you'd swear you're seeing 5 blue cards. But in reality, if you count carefully, you're only seeing 3 blue cards. But because they're 5 faces, it looks like 3 backs. And this is all he's doing. He's taking the jack and the 10 in his hand and squaring the 2 cards as he's turning this hand over. That's it. So this is the move with this hand. This hand, all he does is the thumb pulls the 2 past the queen to show both sides and turns over as it's doing this. So both hands do this at the same time. You'd swear you saw 5 blue backs. Now I want you to notice something. Remember a second ago I said the paddle move is a larger motion hiding the secret motion? That's a recurring theme in this lecture. Because this is doing the exact same method, using the exact same methodology. The larger motion of the wrists turning hides the smaller secret motion of this and this. So this is a very useful method of misdirection, the larger motion hiding the smaller motion or the secret motion. So the rest, you put these together, you give them a squeeze, fan the cards out, and show both sides. And of course you could do that. Okay, so that's the how the Royalistic works. Tamaris's Royalistic. But I want to use this opportunity to talk about 2 different important things about doing magic and the way I like to do magic. is how do you introduce a trick to a stranger? And I said I like to open with this. And I found over the years that the best way to introduce magic to somebody is using a question. So when I first started doing this, the question was, do you play poker? Bad question, because you never want to ask a question that's going to get you a no answer or having a possibility of a no answer. So I made the question a little bit more ambiguous. So the question now is, do you know poker? And most of this time you get a yes answer. Yes, they do know poker. They may not play it, but they know the name and they're familiar with it. So, because when I ask an audience or a potential audience in intimate conditions a question, and they say yes, they are saying yes, I know poker, but I hear yes, we'd love magic. Can you show us some more? That's what I hear. So it makes me feel good if they say yes, is what I'm trying to tell you. But it's also the best way to start a performance, in my opinion, for intimate close-up is start a conversation. And the best way to start a conversation is to ask a question. So the other thing I want to talk about is, the things that I like to carry in my bag of tricks are mostly examinable at the end. I think it's a nice thing to try to make everything examinable at the end. It makes you feel better as a performer, especially, when I say intimate, if these are not just for paying gigs. It's like when you're doing magic for friends or when you're doing if you go to school, you're doing it for like fellow students, your peer group, your parents, your relatives, because that's a different kind of audience. They're going to be less polite. So for that particular audience, you want to either be examinable at the end or fake examinability. And I want to talk about faking examinability right now. So this is a strategy I use with this trick, but you can apply it to anything that's you want people to feel are examinable, even though they're not. Now, in this trick, the cards are 60% examinable, which means 3 out of the 5 are examinable. And the way I do this is, like I said, I prefer like a trade show or a cocktail party atmosphere, but within your home and stuff, you'll have to vary it, and I'll explain that in a second. Because in a trade show, usually they're carrying a bag or some paperwork or a cup of coffee or a phone, so they only have one free hand. At a cocktail party, they have a drink or they have, hors d'oeuvres, so they only have one free hand. So I take advantage of this one free hand. So at the end of the trick, when I say, all these cards, I'd get killed, blah, blah, blah. Give me your hand. And I put these cards on their hand one at a time. But I make sure that they're spread across their hand. And the top card in this case feels like it's going to fall on the floor. And the reason for that is most people, almost all people, are going to be afraid to move their hand because they're afraid that this is going to fall on the floor, slide off your hand. And this is my strategy, because now they only have one free hand. They can't examine the cards, but they feel like they just examined the cards, but it's in your hand. And they're also very careful because they don't want this to fall. If there's anybody else around them, they assume that these have just been examined because it's on their friend's hands. Now, what if they have 2 free hands? If you're not at a trade show or a cocktail party, what I usually do is I have them cup their hands and I spread the cards across both hands, making sure that at least one of them feels like it's just about to fall if they move just the slightest bit. So once again, it looks like everything's examinable. It feels like everything is examinable. You'd swear that after the show, the person who had this in their hand swears that they examined the cards. It's a really weird thing. Now, I've done this thousands, maybe 10,000, 10,000s of times over the years. And I think less than 5 times, maybe 3 times, somebody actually tried to examine the cards. But in order to do that, what they do is they try to put them together first. And by then I slowly reach over, pick them all up and put them in my pocket. But they really do feel like they were examined at that point. Any questions on that?
One person said, how much for the cards?
How much? We'll get to that at the end. I'll take care of you guys,
okay.
Especially the live attendees. I'm really going to take care of you. The rest of them,
I have a question actually here.
Yes.
You said there's a sticky substance on the back of the card.
Yes.
Is that like a double stick tape or wax or what
You
is that?
could use anything you want. My personal preference is the 3M temporary adhesive with the can spray with a red cap. The red cap, I think, is the best one. They're going to try to sell you one of the other brands because they're cheaper, more profitable for the companies. But the 3M temporary adhesive spray red cap, best.
And you cover the entire back of the card, just like a center
No,
spot?
no. Just the center, about a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch, just the center.
Okay. Mayor, we had a question too back for the paddle routine. You were saying that after the paddle routine that it can be examined. Is that something that you would do in the routine?
Oh yeah, every single time. Every single time. I mean, that's the purpose of that. That's why I love this paddle routine. It's completely examinable because you, at the end, you end with 2 arrows on one side and one on the other, and that's how you started, really.
Excellent.
So it is examinable. I mean, it's routine to be examinable.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. And everything is. That was the only trick that's not really, but even explain how to make that examinable. Because things that you carry with you should be things you're comfortable doing, and having stuff examinable at the end is another level of comfort. Now, not everything I do is examinable, but everything in this lecture is examinable. Okay, next item. A trick with a die. And, some people think, oh, you shouldn't do magic with dice. It's a gambling device, but it's really not a gambling device. Every kid knows what dice are. I mean, they come in board games. Backgammon, the most popular board game, has dice. So it's completely a normal object. If you show this to somebody, you say, what is this? It's a dice, they'll say. Anyway, so I'm going to show you the routine I'm going to perform, and then I'm going to teach it. And what's interesting, I'll do the pattern the way I would do it for lay people. And here it goes. When casinos first started using dice, games with dice, they were being cheated all the time because there were all these companies manufacturing fake dice that matched the casino's dice with numbers in all different positions, which allowed them to cheat and let the players win. So the casinos worldwide decided to get together and make a standardized die or dice. And what they decided is to, and I don't know if you knew this, but it's absolutely true, to make sure that a die is real and not fake, the opposite sides always have to total 7. For example, opposite the 1, there'll always be a 6. If you have one at home now, you could test to make sure it's right. Opposite of 2 is always a 5 because 5 plus 2 is 7. Opposite of 3 is always a 4 because 3 plus 4 is 7. That's how you know if a die is real. But and by the way, next time you play board games with your friends and stuff, check the die to make sure it's okay. Because it could be your friends have been cheating you your whole life and you didn't know it. Time for new friends if that's the case. But what happens is the casinos didn't know about this whole class of people that called themselves dice mechanics. And what dice mechanics were men and women who were using sleight of hand to make it look like the die looked like it's showing any number they wanted, using sleight of hand. And that's when I want to demonstrate for you that sleight that can make it look like any number you want. I'm going to move off camera so you can get a close-up of my hand. And let me show you. Now, we all know that opposite the 6 is always a 1 because, 1 plus 6 is 7. But look, if they wanted to, they could make it look like instead of a 6, it looks like a 2. And if they use on opposite the 2, we know it's a 5, but they could make it look like a 3 because now we're going in numerical order. Opposite the 3 is a 4. Opposite the 4, you can make it look like a 5. And opposite the 5 is a 6. So think about this. They total 7, but I could make it look like we have 6 on this side, 5 on this side, 4 on this side, 3 on this side, 2 on this side, and 1 on this side. So that's the quick 6-to-1 dice routine. And when I was a teenager, and I always carry this with me, when I was a teenager, I met a magician in New York. His name was Les Shire. And he came up with the concept of showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he showed that to me, and I went home and I practiced. He didn't teach it to me, but I went home, I worked it out, I practiced this. And a few weeks later, I saw him and I showed him what I was doing. And he said, well, it's not exactly the same as what I did, but it looks good. I mean, I was kind of going in a reverse order, movement-wise. And then he said, I never saw the going backwards. I never even occurred to me, and I didn't even think it would be possible to do it backwards, from 6 to 1. So I was doing this since I was a teenager all the time. I used to work at the New York Toy Fair, whatever, 10,000 dealers. A lot of them had board games with dice. I'd walk over, talk to them. I'd do this routine for them. You'd be surprised how often you go to somebody's house and for some reason they have dice laying around. You pick it up, you can do it. It's one of these impromptu skills that once you learn it, you'll be able to do it forever. And I'm going to teach you how to do it. You do need a real die, obviously, and the opposite sides have to total 7. You need to hold the die between the index finger and thumb on a diagonal. And the middle finger just hovers there next to it. And what happens is there's a 1 on this side. Now the 2 is down here. The way you show the 2 is actually very easy. All you're doing is turning the hand. So look at the side view. All you're doing, remember the 2 is here. All you're doing is turning the hand. Okay, so it's 2. Boom. So here's the 1. Here's the 2. Not a big deal. 3 is something you're not used to doing. For the 3, this middle finger is going to turn the die but that happens as your wrist turns. So even though there's a 5 on this side, you do the move slowly, even slowly, and there's a 3. Now, did you notice something? This trick uses the same method as the previous 2 tricks, the larger motion hiding the secret motion. It's a very, very valuable technique in magic, especially sleight of hand magic. So it's 1, 2, 3. 4 is very easy because opposite the 3 is always a 4 anyway, so you just show the 4. For the 5, you're going to do it in reverse. This index finger is going to turn the die, okay, as you turn your hand. So this is the 5. Okay. All right, we'll do it again. So it's 1, 2. Okay. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 5 is that. So it's 5. 6 is kind of weird because it's not more difficult than any others, but the 6 is up here, and you have to get it over here. So this is what happens with the 6. So it's really the only time in the routine where everything really turns, the die and the hand. So in regular speed, here's the 5. And I'll do it slow first. 5, 6. And now regular speed, 5, 6. And of course, doing it backwards is just the whole thing in reverse. 1. So it's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So let me give you a tip on how to learn this. Just like these types of paddle moves, you need to learn it in steps because your hands are not used to doing these movements, and your brain is not used to following these movements. So the only way to learn this is to do the 1, 1, 2, but do that 100 times. Don't go to 3, just 1. If you try to go to 1, 2, 3 right away, you'll never get this. So it's just 1, 2, 1, 2. Do that 100 times. 1, 2, 1, 2. Then upgrade to 3. So you do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Do that 100 times. Then add 4. Even though 4 is self-working, don't add it too soon. You want 1, 2, 3, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Do that 100 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that 100 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you just did the trick 100 times. And now you should be able to learn it and be able to do it pretty quickly. Now, I have a special surprise for the live attendees, the ones that are watching this on a rerun. I'm really, really sorry. But at the end of the lecture, I'm going to give you a link to a particular website. And a video tutorial of this will be there for you to watch for the following week, in the next week or so. The rest of you, I do have this out as a download as well, or you could watch this over and over again. But obviously, the download is going to give you a lot more detail. And do we have any questions on this at all?
No, people just saying, fantastic, well done.
Okay, I'll take compliments, you know. So one thing I also want to point out is I love to give gifts when I do magic in intimate situations. And this is a perfect gift to give somebody. I bought about 500 of these for about $30. My original plan was to have my web address around the one, but I never followed up on that. But I carry this in my pocket, and I like to give it out as a gift. Also, I want to point out this is a show of skill. It's not you could present it as magic, but it's really just a show of skill the way I present it. So it's not a magic trick per se. And this kind of encompasses everything that I like in magic, because I think when you do magic, especially for strangers, first you want them to know that you are a really good magician. I mean, that's kind of important. You know, you're a magician. You don't want to just be a bad magician. You want to be known as a really good magician. And this is kind of a show of skill that allows you to do that. I don't usually do a lot of patter, but this is one of the things that I do a setup for the trick. And that setup talks about a subject other than magic. In this case, the history of cheaters, dice, casinos. So that makes this a little bit more interesting, and in turn makes you interesting, because that's two out of the three things I want people to know about me. One is I'm a good magician. One is I'm interesting. And the third thing I want them to do is I want them to like me. And the easiest way to have somebody like you is to give them a gift. And I give them as a gift. You could be, you know, a mass murderer, but if you give somebody a gift, they think, what a nice guy. And so just to keep that in mind when you do magic. You want to be a good magician, you want to be interesting, and you want to be liked. And there are strategies for all of those. The other thing, I always carry a coin with me, just you know, in my bag of tricks. You never know. But I do want to show you my next item in the bag of tricks as it's slowly emptying out. And unfortunately, this is the first not Zoom this is not Zoom, but not video friendly routine that you can't really do over a camera. It uses interaction. It's one of two things in this lecture that uses interaction. So it's much stronger if I'm actually doing it for a human being standing in front of me. But I'll walk you through it. You'll understand exactly what's happening, and I'll present it and narrate it simultaneously. So I usually start out by asking someone to lend me a dollar bill. And I take the dollar bill and I start staring at it, and I'm thinking, nah, I shake my head. No, this is not going to work. And I put it in my pocket. So this kind of gets a laugh because you seemingly just stole a dollar bill from somebody, which you actually did. You know, you borrowed a bill, you put it in your pocket. So their friends are going to laugh, person's going to laugh. But then you remove a dollar bill from your pocket and you say, you know what, we'll use my money. We'll use my money because my money has a hole in it, a square hole like a window, and even a shingle that opens and closes over this window. And what I want you to do is to hold on to this door. Now, I thought originally of putting a rubber hand on this that can hold on to this, but that's just like goofy. So I'm just, you have to pretend that somebody's holding on to this. And this is the routine. I say, look, George Washington is staring at you. I'm staring at you. But not only that, if I give this a little fold, you see that pyramid and the eye, that's staring at you too. And it's even though it's facing me, it can stare at you. Now, you know, there've been movies made about this symbol. There've been books written about this symbol. If you search the internet, what this symbol means, Google will explode with all the conspiracy theories. Do you know what this stands for? And once again, you notice I'm asking them questions. I'm getting them involved in a conversation. But this is kind of cool because most people have their own ideas of what this symbol means and their own conspiracy theories that they believe in. And quite often, if you're there and being paid by the hour and you ask this kind of question, the person could spend 5 minutes telling all their friends about the conspiracy theories they believe in. And you're being paid by the hour, so the more they talk, the less you have to do. So these kinds of things work out for me. So once they explain all that, I say, most of those conspiracy theories are not true. But I did find out about one that was kind of true. And I want to show it to you. So let me move this just a little. I'm going to show this to you. I want you to hold on to this. Remember, they're holding on to this the entire time. I want you to hold on to this. Now watch very carefully. If I give this a fold, remember, George is staring at you, I'm staring at you, and this is staring at you, but it's staring at you from the other side. Watch very carefully. Don't let go. You have to hold on to this the entire time. Do not let go. No matter what happens, don't let go, okay? We're going to give this a fold and give this a fold. Hold on to it. Nothing has happened. Watch. Remember, staring at you. All I have to do is give it a little wave. And what happened is the entire world has just turned inside out. And now the pyramid is staring at you and George is staring at me. So what happened is this bill has just turned inside out while in a spectator's hand. This is actually a very powerful effect because it doesn't make sense to people. They were holding on to it the entire time. We're used to seeing these kinds of puddles. But a layperson, it's impossible. I mean, it really is impossible if you think about it. Topology is not something you can visualize if you're not used to it. But so they immediately try to fold it and play with it. And that's when I take it back. And I say, that really wasn't fair of me because you didn't really know what to expect. You didn't know the moment that entire world folded up onto itself. So I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do it very, very slowly. And I'm going to let you see the moment when the whole world turns inside out. And now, first thing you should know is a US dollar bill is green on one side and black on the other. Okay, and the black side of the bill is called the face. That's where George Washington is. This is the face. I want you to remember that the face is towards your face. So the second you see green, something spooky or strange happened, something sneaky happened. So keep an eye on for the green and make sure the face is towards your face the entire time. So hold on tightly. Don't let go because watch very carefully. If I give it a little fold like that, face is still towards your face. One more little fold like that, face is still towards your face. All you see is black. One more fold, the face is towards your face. One more fold, the face is towards your face. Nothing has happened. All you see is black. Now watch very carefully. It's going to be in 1 second. Don't blink. Watch because the entire world has just turned inside out. And it's now green towards, remember, they're holding on to this green towards you. The pyramid is towards you and George is staring at me. So that's the basic routine I like to do. And I should mention that at the end, I let them keep this as a souvenir because I want to be liked, remember? And I said, give away gifts. There's probably no greater gift you can give somebody than money. Try it. You give anybody money, they're going to love you for a little while. So this is ideal for that. But so as I give this away at the end, keep it. You may keep this as a souvenir. The person may think, wow, that was such a nice guy. He just gave me free money. Their friends, wow, he's giving away free money. Because most of the time they forgot that at the beginning of the routine, I actually borrowed a dollar bill from someone and put it in my pocket. So I never lost money on this deal. I borrowed a $1 bill. I gave them back a dollar bill, which is kind of cool. Now, this routine and this idea and this particular fold was invented by Nick Brown and was put out by Brad Burt many, many years ago. And I bought it. It came with a VHS and a dollar bill that was cut this way. And I carried it in my pocket every day of my life in my wallet. I always carried this with me. I should also mention, if you walk into my closet now and go into the pockets of all my coats and my jackets, you'll find it in the left jacket pocket. Almost everyone has a die, a paddle, and a coin in it. I carry this in my pockets. Even when I don't have my bag of tricks, this is in my jacket pocket, these 3 items. And this bill is in my wallet with all my other money in the center. So, now all of you, you may have seen the amazing jumping arrow at the beginning or the magician badge, and you thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm gonna learn that, and I'm gonna share that moment of magic that I experienced with my friends. Well, my brain doesn't work that way. When I see something like this that Brad Bird put out and Nick Brown came up with, I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I love this. I want to eventually buy the rights to this, and I want to make it part of my brand. I want to share this with all my magician friends because I want to convince them that they too should carry this with them wherever they go. And it took a while, but I worked out a deal with Brad that made everybody happy. And I bought the rights to it and I put it out myself because I wanted to add some stuff to it. If you ever bought the original Wonderland, it was originally called Wonderland Dollar. You got a VHS tape originally and a dollar bill. And the VHS tape didn't give you like great instructions on how to make any more, just general instructions. And so basically, if you didn't make a second copy using this as a template, you would need to buy another VHS tape and stuff, which is actually what happened to me. I bought like over the years 3 VHS tapes just to get the dollar bill. So when I wanted to put it out, I wanted to really teach you how to make your own. And I worked out the mathematics of how this works. And if you and I give it to you on the DVD. Basically, if you know the length and the width of the dollar bill, you know exactly where to put that window and how big to make it. That's really all you need to know. But this allows you to do it in other larger formats. For example, you can do this with magazine covers. You can do this with posters. I know one person did it with gigantic thing for a wedding, with black and white photo on one side, color on the other, and there were 4 people that had to handle it just to prove that after the wedding happens, the world changes or whatever. So, so I wanted to make this easy to make, and because I want to give them away. That's why it has to be very easy to make. So I contacted my friend Bill Schmilk, who was Doug Henning's illusion builder, and we worked out the manufacture of this thing. It's a template that you could just put over any bill, any US bill, and cut out the 3 sides and then do all the proper folds to make it work. For the ones that I give away, I make very light folds so they can't reconstruct it. The ones that I use all the time, I give them heavy folds, you know, this way, because I'm not giving them away and they'll be easy to reconstruct. They're pre-folded. And now I also wanted to be able to do this with bills from other countries, and that's why the math was worked out. There are other routines that are included. It's a funny thing. It's a self-working trick. It comes with a 90-minute DVD, and of course the thing. But I tell people from other countries as well, they're better off using a US dollar bill, because I think this story, since everybody worldwide is familiar with some of the conspiracy theories, the movies, the books, and things like that, it's a perfect way to have a conversational piece of magic with people. So I would highly recommend, wherever you live, to use a US dollar and tie it into your own routine, your own presentation. The other thing I should mention is, well, actually, we don't need to even mention that, but that's the Wonder Bill. Any questions on that?
Not on that. We have questions on the back on the die, actually.
Okay.
We've been writing. Does rounded corners versus square change the hold of the die?
No, it doesn't really matter at all. I've done it with everything. Small ones, big ones, you know, and different rounded corners, straight corners. It doesn't matter. Once you get the moves right, it doesn't matter anymore.
And someone else wrote, I had a friend many, many years ago show me something similar, but he used 2 dice and showed them.
Yeah, that's the famous stack routine. It appears in the Sack Sleight of Hand. That's where it first appeared in print.
Okay. And another person wrote, does size matter, the dice size?
No. I actually think the 5/16 is ideal. But for this lecture, I was using the 3/4 inches, so Great. It looked better on camera. Perfect. But it really doesn't matter. Once you can do the routine, it doesn't really matter.
Excellent. Okay, I got a question here about the dollar bill routine.
Yes.
Can that be done with a playing card, or does it have to be a softer type of paper? Can be done with
okay, that's a good point. The reason I was very, very comfortable paying really good money for the rights to this is because Nick Brown came up with a 6-way fold. Now there are the predecessors to this were Bob Neal's trapdoor card, which is a 4-way fold. It's different than this. David Britland came up with routines with the trapdoor card 4-way fold. Terry Rogers, I think, put out a booklet on it. And there have been many versions of the 4-way fold. which is more ideal for a card trick. I know there are children's there are dealers of children's magic in England that put out big sheets with a four-way fold where you broke into a castle or you broke into a safe. So those four-way folds, the trapdoor card, the original, are much better for card tricks than this six-way fold, which is perfect for bill tricks, if that makes sense.
Excellent.
Any other questions? I'm glad we got questions. That means people are paying attention.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, let me tell you a funny story. So the first magic convention I went to after I put out the Wonder Bill, I made 30 of these with a template, and I put them in my booth. And everybody that came to my booth, I demoed it for them, and I gave it to them as a gift at the end. But I wasn't paying attention. I was just doing this all day. And then when I get back to my hotel room, I reach into my pocket, and inside my pocket, it feels strange because my pocket was full of crumpled up dollar bills. And I thought, oh, this is what it feels like to be a stripper. And yeah, you see, I got my own laugh track just to make it feel like it's a live event. Oh yeah, they love me. But where were we? Oh yeah, the bag of tricks. I've been used so far in the lecture. I've been using my coin trick carrier, but I wouldn't recommend you do that. But I do recommend that everybody watching this think about putting together your own bag of tricks. The best place to get them, believe it or not, we're living in a good time on that level. Most stores you go to, large department stores or tiny little stores, no matter what else they sell, they always have a section for cameras, portable cameras and smartphones. And the wallets and cases they make for those cameras and phones are ideal to make your own bag of tricks. So find one that can hold the tricks you like to do and buy it and use that as your own personal bag of tricks. Now, I don't use this when I get paid shows because then it's all out of my pockets. But like I said, when I leave the house, I'm going to go visit somebody. I just toss this right in the car or in the bag, and I'm always ready to go. Because when you're associating with your friends, quite often, hey, can you show the waiter something or the waitress something, or can you show my friend something or whatever? And then you don't have to think, oh, what am I going to do? Or here's a deck of cards. Am I going to produce? This is just easy because once you open it, you know exactly what you're going to do. And you do the good stuff if they seem to be nice people. You do the fast, quick stuff if you just want to get rid of them. But your whole choice is right there, and it removes the need to think of something to do, if that makes sense. You're always ready. You're also not going to misplace the stuff, because a lot of times, you're working on a new gaff coin trick or something, or a new dice trick or something, and you leave it laying around the house. But it's always with you. So it's not just the stuff you always use. It's the stuff that, you're working on. It's always with you to practice if you want to. So get your own bag of tricks. I want to show you my other bag of tricks that I carry with me. I bought this one for exactly $10 at a dollar store. And the reason I like this one is it's twice as thick as the one I've been using so far. And the reason for that is I found one that can also hold a deck of cards. Now, I always like to carry a deck of cards with me. So even when I use this, it's one pocket, the bag of tricks, one pocket, a deck of cards. In this case, I don't always have two pockets in the summer, especially. So everything is right in here. Okay, well, now we're going to do a stage trick. But before we do it, were there any questions that popped up?
Tom just said that makes a lot of sense what you're saying now. And Doc Willie
now,
said,
as opposed to the previous part?
Well, there you go. Doc Willie said
I was just kidding, Tom.
He uses an Altoids box, actually.
Okay, that works. It doesn't really matter. Any of those things work. When I was younger in New York, there was a big cigar. Somebody told me the name yesterday, too. But it was a big cigar store in Manhattan. And I used to go there to get my bag of tricks because they had leather cigarette cases, and some of them were wide enough to hold a poker-sized deck of cards. So it doesn't matter where you do it. What's his name? He didn't use it for a bag of tricks, but a lot of people used his idea for the card on ceiling, and that's Carl Norman came up with the idea of the Sucrets box. Just like the Altoids, they had a Sucrets tin, and you could use that as your bag of tricks as well, because say, oh, these are all my secrets. Stupid, but hey, it works. It gets a laugh. Any other questions? We'll go to the stage trick.
We're doing good. Yeah, we're doing great.
Okay.
Now.
So I also carry a stage trick in my bag of tricks, and that's what I'm going to do for you right now. The reason I do is that if you're being paid to go to a party, a house party or a small party in a restaurant in a private room, quite often at the end of your hour or two of walk around, the host is going to say, can you do something for everybody? Because they want to gather everybody up in one corner, either to make announcements, give awards, or tell them where to go to dinner. And they're using you as an excuse to gather everybody over. So you need to always be prepared to do one stage trick. So this is my stage routine that I do when these situations come up, because the whole routine fits right in my shirt pocket. Unfortunately, this is the second trick in the lecture that's not video friendly. You need to have a live audience for the second half. So we're going to start with the first half, which is a series of jokes. And Joel, I'll be asking you questions in a second.
Sure.
And the second half is a killer. Did I say killer piece of mentalism you're going to love? But I can't really perform it for you. So I'm going to narrate the routine in detail, and then I'm going to explain it to you. But you're going to love it, I promise. So we're going to start out. Joel, you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, I have a prediction. Do you know what my prediction is?
No.
No, that's right. Very good. We're in sync. First you picked out the Queen of Diamonds before. It was perfect. And now it's the no. We're really in sync. This is going to work. This is going to work out great. But just in case, I want to test this out again. I have a second prediction. Name any four-legged animal.
A dog.
A dog. That's what I have, is a dog. And it's a really fat dog. You like to feed your dog, don't you?
I do.
Okay. I have another prediction. It gets a little tougher this time. I want you to pretend you're in a supermarket. And I want you to go down the aisle where all the canned food is. Go to the end of the aisle where the canned soup is, at the end of the aisle. Pick up any can of soup and tell me what brand of soup it is and how much it costs.
It's clam chowder, and it's $2.30.
Oh, clam chowder, $2.30. And it was Campbell, wasn't it? I had Campbell here too. But you could scan this to make sure I'm right. But of course, we're in total sync. So why shouldn't I be right? One last prediction. I have one last prediction on the other side of this piece of paper. I want you to name any playing card in the world. Name any card.
Ace of Diamonds.
The Ace of Diamonds is right there, the Ace of Diamonds. But I'm kidding, of course, it's the whole deck of cards. There are actually 78 cards here to fill up the sheet of paper. I even had the Joker and the advertising cards, just in case, you got to try to be a wise guy or something. So this is the end of the humorous part of the routine. And now we go into the very serious mentalism piece. Did I mention it was a great mentalism piece? So you bring someone up on stage. If the person you were doing the gags with had a good sense of humor and was laughing, you bring them up. If they didn't, you pick somebody that was having a good time, because they make a better audience. So you bring them up in front of you and you say, hey, you either have them rip this sheet in half or you rip it in half. It's up to you how you do that. But now you're holding two pieces of paper and you ask them, which one do you want? Free choice. They can have this one or this one. It doesn't really matter. So let's say they took this one. You now demonstrate using your piece of paper what you want them to do by ripping it in half. So each of you are now holding two pieces. And you have them put the pieces together in their hand, and you tell them, you now stop calling this a piece of paper and you start calling it a deck of cards, which kind of gets more laughs at this point. So you have them cut the deck in half. You tell them, I want you to cut the deck in half, which gets a laugh, but basically you show them how to cut the two pieces. You then have them rip this into four pieces. So now they have four pieces of paper. You put it in their hand. And you say, I want you to shuffle the cards. I want you to really shuffle the cards. I want this to be fair. And they start mixing up these pieces of papers, which is a funny thing. And then you say, you want to cut the deck? And they usually cut the deck. And you say, that's silly. Don't you trust your own shuffle? or things like that. You can have byplay as much as you want. So you rip this in half. So now they have pieces that are this size. Once again, they mix it up. Sometimes some fall on the floor, which gets some laughs, and they pick it up. And then you have them rip it in half again if you want to. You don't have to. But they have a bunch. Now they have a bunch of loose pieces of paper in their hand. And you tell them, I want you to pick a card. So reach inside and take one out. So they're going to remove one piece of paper. And you ask them, you like this paper? Do you want to put it back? Get a different one? Does it have cards on it? Because depending on how they ripped it, they could have like a tiny piece with nothing on it. But you want them to take a piece with cards on it. So they keep doing this, and until they find one they really, really like. Free choice. Okay. So now you have them think of any of the cards on that. Think of one of the cards of this piece of paper. Usually they have anywhere from 2 to 5 cards, depending on how good they ripped it. So and what piece they took. So you have them think of one of the cards. Then you look into their eyes and you tell them what card they're thinking of. It's that direct. It feels that direct. Interested, Joel?
Very.
Okay. Because it's actually very, very easy too. This was invented by Cody Fisher. And he was actually in college when he came up with this. And he sent me a VHS tape of him performing this in front of his college roommate, I think it was, or buddy or whatever. And, I saw it because he wanted me to put it out. So I'm looking at the video and I'm thinking, what does he want me to put out? Just a piece of paper with, comic predictions on it? It doesn't make sense, because it's obvious to me he used a stooge. There's no other way he could have known what card that guy was thinking of, because 1 out of 52. But then he explained it. And I realized that this is brilliant. He completely fooled me because of the way this is structured. So let me explain how this works. If you're familiar with the Quran deck, which has 5 repeated force cards in it, it actually wasn't invented by Quran. It was invented by Audley Walsh, remember, the SAM from New Jersey. He called it the Dream Deck, and he originally published it in Genie. But then Quran came up with it, and the name was associated with him. So basically, if you're not familiar with it, it's 5 cards. There are 5 cards that can be forced in the top half of the sheet, and there are 5 different cards that are forced in the bottom. That's why it looks like the whole deck is there. So in between those 5 cards, they're picture cards, because the 5 cards that you're going to force are either the 3 of clubs, 7 of spades, 5 of hearts, 4 of spades, or 8 of spades. So those are the only possibilities they could think of, because once they take that piece of paper, you tell them something like, everybody thinks of picture cards, so don't think of a jack, queen, or king. Make it really, really tough. So you just eliminated the picture cards that are in between the force cards. They can't think of those. So it's either going to be 3 of clubs, 7 of spades, 5 of hearts, 4 of spades, 8 of spades. So they're going to think of one of these cards. Now, I hate to call this fishing, because fishing is going through different branches and following the answers. This is not like that. This is a mathematical system to find out what card they're thinking of, and I'll explain it. I want you to notice that out of the 5 cards they could think of, 4 of them are black, 1 of them is red. Only 1 is red. Keep that in mind. So your first statement to the spectator is you're thinking of a black card. It's not an ambiguous statement. You're thinking of a black card. Why did you say that? There are 4 black cards, 1 red card. There's an 80% chance of them thinking of a black card. So you're always going to go with the math where you're mathematically correct. If somebody, if you'd make a bet where you had 80% chance of winning. So that's what you're doing here. 80% chance it's black. You say you're thinking of a black card, a direct statement. You could even point if you want to. What happens now? They'll either say, wow, yes, how did you know I was thinking of a black card? Or their face will say that. Or they'll say no. If they say no, you know that they have to be thinking of the only red card, which is the 5 of hearts. So it's in an instant. You say, oh, if they say no, you say, oh, wait a minute. And I thought it was a spade. You're not thinking of a spade, but it's shaped like a spade, but without the tail. You're thinking of a heart. It's not a high card. It's under a 10. It's not a low card. It's above a 3, somewhere in the middle at 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5. You're thinking of the 5 of hearts. So that's how you'd end it. But you don't have to wait for them to say no. Because you're making direct statements, you're not asking them questions, you will immediately know if your direct statement was correct or not. Because when you say you selected a black card, If they didn't, they start hesitating, like, did I? And you see that in their face, because you're telling them they select the black card. So they're thinking, what did I do wrong? So you see immediately if they thought of it or not. You never have to wait for them to say no, almost never. So anyway, so now we're left with, assuming they say yes, 80% chance they said yes, they're thinking of a black card. The cards they could be thinking of are the 3 of clubs, 7 of spades, 4 of spades, 8 of spades, 3 spades, 1 club. Okay. 75% chance now that they're thinking of a spade. So that's your next statement. You're thinking of a spade. If they hesitate, they're thinking of the only club. It's the 3 of clubs. You're following me so far, right, Joel?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so now there are 3, and you get out of it the same way. So now there are 3 spades left, 2 evens, a 4 and an 8, and an odd one, the 7. So you're going to go with the math. There's now a 66% chance that it's an even card. So you're going to say you're thinking of an even card. If they say no, it's the 7 of spades, and you immediately reveal it. So it looks like this was the way it was supposed to go. So now the 4 and the 8. This is really just a 50-50 chance. I usually go, you're thinking about, now it's kind of like a fishy thing when you're getting 50-50. So you're going to go, you're kind of thinking of a lowish card. If they say yes, it's like a lowish even spade, you're thinking of 4 spades. If they say no of the lowish card, or they hesitate, it's the 8 of spades, and you just say, when I meant low, I mean it's like under a royal flush, under a 10, somewhere in the middle there, lowish middle, and it's the 8 of spades, and you name their card. But it really feels like yes, 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 yes. Here's your card. Any questions on that? It's called 52 Thoughts, and it comes with you get 50 sheets of paper, which for most magicians is a lifetime supply. You get the instructions, everything you need. I also want to point something out. Magicians are used to seeing these kinds of jokes, the no, the dog, they're used to seeing these jokes, so we don't really laugh at it. But lay people are not used to seeing most of these. And even magicians, when I've done this in magicians in the room, what happens is, maybe the no will get, like, let's assume 3 people laugh at no, okay, out of a random group of, let's say, 30, 40 people. So 3 people laugh at no. Now, because these things get sillier and stupider as you go along, you're going to have a multiplying factor. So when you do the dog, let's say 6 people laugh now. You do the barcode, you now have 12 people laughing. You do the 52 on 1 gag, 24 people, let's say, laugh. That's still a majority of your audience in most cases of these small groups. But I've done this for about 100 people. And believe me, by the no gets a chuckle, but then everything else gets laughs because of the buildup and the rhythm of the humor. Do we have any other questions on this or anything else so far? Because this is the end of the Bag of Tricks lecture, and we're going to go into the cards section.
No, just one person just said they absolutely love it. So
yeah, no, I love this too, because really Cody came up with a fantastic routine, premise, the whole thing. It's like
I do have a question about that. When you were first doing it with Joel, you said you had him name any card, you turn the card over, you said Ace of Diamonds. Are all 52 cards represented on that backside or not?
No, if it's not there, I just point randomly because it's a joke. In this case, it wasn't, but I know if they name a picture card, I forgot to mention something very important. But if they name a picture card, I know it's there because all the picture cards are there. Usually they'll name a Jack of King or a Queen, or they'll name the Ace of Spades, and it's right here. He didn't name a card that was on the sheet, so I just randomly pointed. I actually pointed at the 7 of Diamonds, which I think he said 7 of Hearts. But yeah, I just pointed in the. If they name a red card, I would point to the bottom because that's more red cards because they're a different set. If they name a black card that's not here, I'd point at the black card. But you have to pretend you're looking for it. But you'd be shocked at how often they actually name a card that's on there because it's mostly picture cards. I forgot. It's very important. I'm glad you asked the question because this is very important. I used the technology I used in my WOW book test when these were designed. Because when you're doing a show, you really need to know the 5 cards. And there are 5 different ones on the bottom, and there are 5 different ones on top. And when I first started doing this, I'd always hand them the top one because those are the 5 cards I knew. but I wanted to create a cheat sheet. So every one of these has a cheat sheet built in, because the advertising card actually has in the prices, the names. So when you rip up your sheet, you have the sheet of paper that says, 7 of hearts, 3 of clubs, 7 of spades, 4 of spades, 8 of spades in order. The questions are always the same, but these are the cards. So should you forget what's going on, you put your hand over your brow and you just read this in your hand. So you know where you're going and what card you're thinking of. Should something happen, somebody spill drink or whatever. Any other questions, suggestions, opinions?
Lou Johnson just wanted to know, since you're standing by your books, how do you organize your library?
None of his business.
There you go, Lou.
It's alphabetical by author. I know, Lou, that's why I can make fun of him.
Okay.
Alphabetical by author. Except this section I just added there for the camera to see. But everything around it is alphabetical by author. I was thinking of doing cards, general, but there's so many books that are in between categories. It's hard to do it for magic. Because a card book would also have coin tricks. So where would you put it?
If you buy that last effect, is it easy to reproduce on the home printer or not?
You could. I mean, you could scan it and print it, but you're getting 50 sheets. And like I said, that's a lifetime supply for most people. And what happens is it is in color. And I had to use thicker paper, because the one thing you have to watch out for if you're printing it yourself is a lot of the paper that's used for printing, you could see through. And that's kind of important. You don't want to see the gags and stuff. You want people to see the cards. So you have to use a thicker paper. To be honest with you, it's a lot cheaper if you just buy it from me, because I completely underprice it, considering the weight and the shipping. But you could buy one, scan it, and do it yourself. Yes. Any other questions?
No, just actually have somebody from Sydney, Australia, coming in. Rabbi Sanday, he wants to know he's here. So.
Am I what?
No, he just wants to know that he's here.
Hello. I just did a lecture in Australia a few weeks ago in Sydney.
Wow.
Anyway, so last time I had to get up at 5 a.m. to do the lecture in Australia. So now it's his turn to get up at a weird hour. So this is so that was the end of the bag of tricks lecture, really stressing, get yourself a bag of tricks, be a good magician, practice as much as you can for people, be interesting, be likable. I covered all of that. Larger motion, hiding, smaller motion, give away gifts. But let's get to the card section.
Can I ask one more question about the bag of tricks before we move on here?
Of course.
How much time, if you're carrying that bag of tricks, how much time can you do out of that bag?
Well, without it, you mean without a deck of cards?
Yes.
It's really up to you what you want to do. I never really counted, but I have a bunch of bag of tricks and they each have different stuff. So it's usually, paper clips and coins and gaffed coins and bills and cards. I never really counted, but I have no idea. I could probably go on for a while. And if you put in if you put in 4 coins or 4 coins in a shell, you can now do all kinds of other coin routines that with regular coins, because you also want to carry regular props, not just everything gaffed. I never looked, but I could probably do 20 minutes or so, I would guess, without cards.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. And now the card section, it really just has 2 things. A card routine at the beginning, and then I'm going to show you a slide that I've never, ever published, and I've only been explaining it during these video lectures, so you're going to get an exclusive. And since the SAM is the only one I really gave permission to record it, I guess it officially becomes published when at the end of this video, and it's there and in the SAM archives. But we'll get to that after the card routine. Okay, this uses the 4 aces. And, actually, we don't even need the deck of cards. Just the 4 aces. Let me move this center in. Somebody pointed out that I should always try to be center. Spades, clubs, hearts, diamonds, spades. These are the 4 aces. I want you to watch very carefully. All I have to do is wave my hand over the 4 aces. and the ace of hearts turns face down. Isn't that weird? Watch one more time. A little wave. The ace of hearts flips face down. And now the ace of clubs turns face up. One more time. A little wave. And now the ace of clubs turns face up. And the ace of diamonds turns face down. Another little wave. And the ace of diamonds turns face up. And now the ace of spades turns face down. And really, it really does. The ace of spades does turn face down. But how does this work? Well, you know, let me tell you the way this works. Maybe we can see something on the back. We can have a hint of how this worked. How did these cards just flip face up and face down like that? Let's take a look. There's the letter R. I don't know, an I and an E. Oh. This is done through the magic of Meir. This is done through the magic of Meir. But don't worry. If your name is not Meir, you could still do this trick because the backs of the colors all changed color. And not only that, you could even sell advertising on the back of these cards. I couldn't find a sponsor for this lecture, but maybe you could when you perform. If you work for a corporate company, you could put their logo on the back of this cards. If you're doing a holiday show, you could put like Santa Claus on the back of the cards at the end, and it's done through the magic of Christmas, for example. And I'm going to teach this to you. I actually came up with this routine when I was a teenager, when I discovered this one thing that blew my mind at the time. I realized that my name, Meir, has 4 letters. Never thought about it before. Then I realized that a deck of cards has 4 aces. So I knew I had to come up with a trick where my name ends up on the back of 4 aces. That was my mission. So at the time, I was fascinated by twisting the ace effects, and I worked out this routine. Now, when this first came out, when I was first started working on this, a lot of versions of twisting the aces uses Elmsley counts. Others used, buckle counts or pinky pull downs, and there was a whole trend also of packet tricks that were being marketed with this twisting effect. And they all had you hold the card like this, and then the order of the card kept changing every time you change the order. I think Sam Schwartz had several of these types of routines and had mirror endings and things like that. But I never liked the idea of holding cards like in this kind of grip. I always felt people that are sitting or standing here couldn't see the cards. So I reworked it out in this kind of a grip. And that's what I'm going to show you. But I should mention that I published this routine as part of a packet trick I put out in 1982. And after that came out, all of a sudden there were a lot of other packet tricks using similar handlings coming out with different endings. When I put it out, it was because a friend of mine, I was just doing this with my name all these years. And a friend of mine came up with an idea for an ending to a trick. It was not a very good trick he wanted to sell me the rights to, but the ending I thought was terrific. It was Steve Schneiderman. And I bought the rights to his trick just so I can use his ending. And let me show you what the ending was. At the end of the trick, he said, you know how this works? These cards have marks on them. Not on the faces, but the marks are on the backs. You see, this is Groucho marks, this is Checo marks, this is Harpo marks, and this is Beppo marks. Oh, now we know what Joel's sense of humor is like. So I really like that. And I put this out. It's actually still out. It's called Card Marks. And it comes with stickers, so you could put them on the back of any card that you want. So I'm going to use these to demonstrate this trick for you. Now, there's really very little you need to be able to do to make this work. You need the extra ace of spades. So you could take these. You could take these aces from your bag of tricks, for example, and add them to the deck, but you have to make sure that it's the same brand so the aces match. I'll start with these over here. So here are the 4 aces. And you need to add the extra ace face down. The way that's done is the thumb goes underneath, turns this over. When this happens, these come in and squares up the pack, stealing the extra ace on the bottom. You could then spread this across. So here's a spade, diamond, heart, and club. The whole move, the only thing you need to do is be able to spread the top 3 cards and holding the last two as one. Now, this is easier said than done, because I countless magicians I've seen do this, and this always spreads. They can't hold these things together. And that's because they don't really know the proper technique to do that. And I'm going to show you the secret to this. This is very, very important for any card trick you do where you need to hold more than one card at the end as one. You cannot depend on luck. Cards will always spread if you depend on luck. There's actual technique. And the way to keep two cards from spreading, you need two pressure points to keep them in position. For this kind of a trick, the pressure points are underneath your thumb, the base of your thumb, and the tip of your pinky. This is like a press, a vice. It's in the vice-like grip. So even if people bump into you or pour coffee on you, yeah, they'll burn you, but they're not going to separate these cards, because card tricks are more important than your health, right? So this is very important. You could do it with your ring finger, middle finger, index finger, pinky, but you're always holding them in a grip like this. That's what keeps them from spreading. So to do the 5 cards, I start out with this grip. I usually, for the first part, have the grip between the base of the hand and the tip of the middle finger. So I can spread the top 1, 2, and 3. Remember, they're just spreading right over, holding these two in a vice-like grip over here. Then I use a subtlety created by Ascanio, genius again. What he does is this. It makes it look like you have 4 loose cards that are running around in your hands. Okay. But what he's doing, remember, I said you can't move this. You can't move this. This is a vice-like grip. But he cheats to make it look like everything is moving. And all he's doing is moving this up and down while these hands are really moving the 2 cards. This stays in place. It never moves. But it's, once again, remember at the beginning, and a whole bunch of moves up throughout the whole lecture, larger motion hiding the secret motion. In this case, the secret motion is that this is not moving at all. That's the secret move in here. So you show these all, and all you're going to do is take these 2, remember there are 2 here, and put them over the ace of hearts. Whatever goes on the bottom, that's the card that's going to turn face down. So when you spread these 3, you show the ace of hearts turn face down. You put these 2 over the ace of clubs. When you spread the top 3 again, now the ace of clubs is face down. Also, I should mention, when I do twisting effects, I like to do the following. So next one is the ace of diamonds. I say, look, I'll wave my hand, and when I wave my hand, the ace of clubs flips face up, the ace of diamonds flips face down. This spinning motion with the index finger kind of tells people that, oh, what must be happening is this is actually the only way this could happen is this turning. So it's a little subtle thing, just do the spinning thing. So now this last part is kind of like a sucker effect. You put the ace of spades on the bottom, you wave your hand, you do your spin, and it's here. But why should they believe this is the ace of spades? It was face down the whole time. But it is, so I can actually show it. This is the only regular card in this entire packet, so I show it a lot. And I say, you know, what's going on, blah, blah, whatever you want to say, point to people with it. Then when you turn the packet over, no matter what your ending is, once again, you peel the top 3 cards, you show them here, you throw Groucho, Zeppo, Checo, and Harpo. When you toss Harpo down, you want to spread these cards as they hit the table. So that's how you lose it. So it's here, here. Okay, and it doesn't matter if they land like this, because when 2 cards hit each other, there's going to be movement, so I wouldn't just worry about it. And of course, everything's examinable at the end because you got rid of the evidence over here. And because everything is examinable, you could easily put your business cards on, or print them on aces, or print stickers and with your business card and put them on the back of the aces. Give these away as gifts. Once again, you give away gifts, you become likable. Also, I should mention that the people that are watching this live, at the end, I said I'm going to send you to a special website. That website has a video tutorial for this. It's called Customized Twists. And a few weeks after this taping, if you're watching this later, I'll be selling that as a video download. But if you're here within the next week of this taping, you get to see it for free and learn it for free. That page will continue to be there. It's just all the free stuff will disappear in about a week. So you have 7 days from now to take advantage of the 6-to-1 dice and the card routine. And obviously I have more time there, so it'll be more detailed, different ways to end, beginning, that kind of stuff. But any questions on the customized twists?
Not yet. I love that. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, and I know what's going to be on the back of your card.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever use that? Do you ever use that?
Batman, Robin, Batwoman, Batgirl.
That's right.
Do you ever use that for like corporate sponsor cards in the back, possibly, or?
You could. I mentioned you could do that. I actually never did. I shouldn't say that. I think I did a few times, many years ago. I think I was working for like a medical company, and I had their logo on the back of the card. I didn't give it away, but it was. I think that's what I did. I did that, and I did the giant wave. I had there at the end on the blank cards. They had their corporate name on it. But yeah, but when I came up with it all, it was for my name, because I thought, hey, 4 letters. And Joel, 4 letters. Brett, 4 letters. We can all do this. I think there are 2 T's in your name, or 1?
Only 1. I don't stutter.
Okay. So just one more thing, and this lecture is going to be over. When I first started the lecture, unless we have did another question sneak in?
No.
Okay. So so when I first started lecturing, I actually started lecturing very young, and the first few lectures I did were kind of boring. And the reason they were boring is that I thought, everybody just does a trick and explains it. I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to tell people how I came up with these routines and show them the multi-year process. Because you don't just invent a trick. You invent something else, and it keeps getting better until you're happy with it. And I thought this process would be very good. It shows how the creative mind works. And I did that with every trick in the lecture. Unfortunately, you can't do that with every trick in a lecture. It gets boring. So after about 2 or 3 lectures, I think after 3 lectures, I decided, you know what, from now on, I'm just going to take one trick and give it that treatment, that inventor treatment, creativity treatment. So if you've ever seen me lecture, I always had at least one slide or one move where I showed you the history of it, how I came up with it. And when I was putting this Zoom lecture together, and most of the stuff in this lecture I've never lectured on before, it's really just unique to this. I'm calling it a Zoom lecture, but obviously you're not watching it on Zoom. So I decided to include one thing, and it turned out to be the one thing I decided to include because something changed a few months ago that made me comfortable sharing it. But I've been working on this, evolving this until where it is now for over 40 years. And I want to show you not every step of the way, but the highlight steps along the way, and how and what it ended. And you'll see that where it started is completely different from where it ended. Also, I should warn you, because I've been doing this a lot lately, a lot of people really like the beginning where it started, which is other people's thinking on it and moves. Some people like the middle, and most people like either the ending or the part before the ending. Okay, so keep that in mind. There are no tutorials on this, or it's never been published. This is it. As I go through, try to remember what you want to learn. So when we first get into magic, we get into cards. The first thing we read in magic books is the way to control cards. For me anyway, was overhand shuffles, and you either hold breaks or you hold in jogs. But that's how you control people's cards, using shuffles. Then the next thing we do, as a more advanced version, is to hold breaks under the card. And when you hold that break, you can double undercut it to the tops or bottoms, so you can control the card that way. Or, once you have a break, you could do a double undercut to the table, controlling the card at the top. So those are the 2 that I was learning, and I was doing them all the time. And then I read something, and it was revolutionary for me. If you're not familiar with this, this will be worth the whole lecture for you. So it was called the Kelly bottom placement, or the Ovette master move. And I'll demonstrate that for you. Say stop. You don't have to say stop. Let's say you say stop over here. It's the ace of clubs. It's in the middle of the deck. You show them the ace of clubs, and then you return the cut, whenever they said stop. And in returning the cut, what you actually did is control the ace of clubs to the bottom of the deck. Okay, and this is the bottom view of the Kelly bottom placement. Let's say it's a 7 of spades. As the hand is going down, what's happening is the middle finger that this joint bends on the face of the card and turns the bottom card to the side a little bit, and also creates this opening. I'll exaggerate for you to see what's happening. And when you return the two pieces together, all you're doing is putting the card on the bottom. So here's regular speed. The 9 of clubs goes right here. You just control it to the bottom. And the bottom view, here's the 5 of hearts, and you just control it to the bottom. Kelly bottom placement. When I saw this, I thought, I had superpowers with a deck of cards. I could control it without any effort. Just look at your card, and I got it, and I have complete control over it to do it as I wish. But then I read Alan Ackerman's book, and he had a brilliant, brilliant variation of the Kelly bottom placement that made me change the way I was doing everything. And I'll show you what Alan Ackerman's Kelly bottom placement looked like. Once again, they stop you anywhere. You show them the card. In this case, it's the King of Clubs. But what Alan Ackerman did is he pulled that King of Clubs out of the middle of the deck and let it stick out. So you could see the King of Clubs sticking out of the middle of the deck, okay? He could put this on the table or in a spectator's hand. He would lose the King of Clubs into the middle of the deck, but in doing so, he was also able to control it to the bottom and have complete control. So I switched over from the Kelly to this. This was brilliant. This was like the greatest thing I've ever seen at that time in my life. This is still in the 1970s. I was a teenager. And the method is very interesting. Just like the Kelly bottom placement, this finger turns, and this finger now goes underneath the selected card, pulls the next card out as this is controlled to the bottom. Okay, so here it is in regular speed. Now that you know what's happening, here's the 10 of diamonds. I'll leave it sticking out of the middle of the deck. Lose it inside, and it's on the bottom. And here's the bottom view. 8 of spades. Lost in the middle of the deck, and it's on the bottom. All right, so I thought this was great, and I was using this all the time. This was my go-to card control. Have a card selected, return it to the deck, lose it in the deck, it's on the bottom. Then in the early 1980s, I met an underground card magician. His name was Jack Berman. And Jack Berman explained to me that a layperson would never return the cards in a cut from the front. And a layperson would never return the cards into a cut from the side. A layperson, if they were going to cut the deck and do exactly what I just did, is they would return the cards from the back. And it made total sense to me. And then he showed me his version, which I could never, ever, ever do. It was really difficult, but I'll explain it to you. He was able to take his pinky, the tip of his pinky, and move that card slightly off the edge of the deck. And then he would create pressure with that pinky. He would create pressure with that pinky, creating this opening. And then it allowed him to return the deck from the back. I could never do this, but in his hands, he would do it over and over for me. And I wouldn't see anything. It really looked like here it is, and I'll put it right back. And it looked perfect in his hands, but I could never do it. But I thought that his idea was very valid. And so this is what I worked out. Once again, a card is selected from the middle. You show them the card, the Queen of Clubs. And I say, now don't forget, that's your Queen of Clubs, because on the way down, what I did is something else other than what he was doing, but it allowed me to return it and control it to the bottom. So let me show you my move. So this is still early 80s. As I pointed to their card, this index finger turned the card and fed the corner right underneath the base of my pinky. So this was the position I was in. So now if you just put a little tension, like you're making a fist, that part under your pinky creates that bubble, and it allows me to return the card from the back. So here's an exposed view. Okay, one more time. But of course, what makes this deceptive is the same thing we've done in so many tricks in the past hour and a half or whatever it was, and that is you do this as the hand comes down. It's the larger motion hiding the secret motion. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Remember, this is still the early 80s, and that's still 40 years ago or close to 40 years ago. So let me show you where it's gone from there. So I kind of did this a few times, but I never really, it never got attached to me. I kind of like the Alan Ackerman version better. So that's really what I was using. But I knew this had validity. This was like in the early mid 80s. And then I don't know how many of you know my history, but in 1986, I was in a car accident where I lost a third of my hand. I'm still missing 1.5 fingers. And when I was choreographing all my magic, one of the things I was thinking about at the time is that, you know, most card tricks, you're holding the deck in the left hand, you gesture with the right. And I thought I didn't want to gesture with the missing fingers because it'll call attention to my injury. So I choreographed a lot of my tricks. So I was holding the deck with the right hand as I was gesturing with the left hand. And now I don't, because I've learned how to hold my hand in a certain way that it doesn't really matter. But back then, that's what I was working on. And that's when I came up with this. It's a card control. So let's say a card is returned to the deck. You hold the break, so it's a 3 of spades, and then your fingers move that card out. So instead of a pinky break, I was doing this side jog and holding the deck in this hand. So that was just my way of controlling cards. This is like 86, 87 area. And when I needed that card out of the middle of the deck, all I would do is increase the pressure. But look at the beauty of this. When you increase this pressure, it creates that bubble and it pushes all the cards under it away. So you can now cut the card to the bottom. So here's the move, you know, just here and here. And not only that, you could do a triple cut by taking half of these out and then all of these out, and then you're in. So I was using this as a card control instead of a pinky break. But we're not done yet. Remember, this is still 80s. It's still the 80s. Sometime in the 90s, early 90s, something happened. And I'll show you the next variation. So remember, I was doing this for control. But then while watching TV, I was practicing the move. And something happened that I'm sure I'll be the first person any of you have ever heard use the following phrase. While I was practicing this, I accidentally palmed the card. Now, be honest, how many other people have you ever heard say, I accidentally palmed the card? Nobody. But that's exactly what happened. Because what I didn't realize until then is this bubble that's formed when you're cutting the deck and pushing the cards away. This bubble is the exact position of the card that's going to get palmed. When you palm a card, your hand is in this shape. So this move was putting the palmed card into position to make it very, very easy to take away. So here it is in the center. Just that simple sweeping motion, and you got the card palmed. Okay? But we're not done yet. Remember, this is still like the early 90s. We're still like 30 years, ago. So we're not done yet. There were other versions. And then in the 2000s, I came up with the following. It occurred to me, why am I doing this from the middle of the deck? It just doesn't make sense. I could get this card anytime I want because now you control the card to the bottom of the deck using whatever method you like, and then just keep it in this position. And when you want it, you just transfer the cards from one hand to the other as you palm the card. So here it is. You get the card in position anytime. That's easy. You're not worrying about anything. And you wait in this position. When you want to palm it, you create the bubble. You transfer it from hand to hand, and you got the card because you're putting it in the proper palm position. Okay, so it's here. This is the first one out of the group that I really, really liked and used. Not a lot because I don't do a lot of tricks with the palm cards, but I did, at this point I decided to name it for the first time, and I called it the bubble palm. And so all the versions up till now, let's call the bubble palm. The reason I even give it a name, I should explain to you, because some of you might be publishing one day or have already published, and someone much smarter than me pointed out that the person who names the move or the sequence or the trick is usually the person that that move, sequence, or trick is associated with. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's true. Because I remember when I was young and I published a trick, I gave the trick a name, but I never thought of giving the moves that went into the trick a name. And when other people were using my thinking and my sequences, they didn't know what to call it when they published it. And they gave it a name, and that thing started being associated with them. Even though they gave me full credit when it was published, because they gave it the name, it kind of went with them. So now I'm kind of a little bit more careful. I really should have given this like 6, 7 different names, but you know, let's all call it all the bubble palm. But we're not done yet. There's one more version. There's one more version. Like I said, a lot of people are liking the bubble palm, and a lot of people are liking the Ackerman thing if they've never seen it. But this past January or late December, in that time frame, I came up with this idea, and I'll show it to you. What happens is that, first let me explain. When I have cards selected, I don't really like to have them put back this way. I much prefer having cards returned to the deck. I hand this over to them. I say, put it anywhere you want, and they put it anywhere they want. So a few tips if you want to use this strategy. If you press down on the back of the deck with this thumb, it creates pressure and makes it impossible for them to push this square, because some people will try to like push this square with a deck when you make that offer. The slightest pressure makes this impossible. They'll rip this card and bend it before they lose it in the deck by just the slightest pressure back here. But you don't want them to rip the card. So if they really are trying to push this back, you just keep going back as they're going forwards, because you want to show this card to everybody. Okay. So you show the card to everybody. And this is the move. Well, you know what? I'll do the move first. So here's the card. It's the 5 of hearts. They selected it. They signed it. And I'll lose it in the middle of the deck. And I'll give the deck a cut to further lose it in there. And of course, in doing that, I just palmed the card right out. So here's the move. As it's lost in the deck, these 2 fingers go in this far corner where the left thumb is, and they lose the card in this position. Okay? So it puts it in that grip that I told you about, ready to be palmed. So now you cut the deck and you take the card. Okay, that's all there is to it. Once again, here, here, here. Now, I'm not publishing this because I think it still has some flaws that I'll be working out over the next 40 years, hopefully. One thing I don't like about it is if you're losing the card in the deck, why are you then having to cut the deck? It just doesn't make sense logically. I have an internal voice when I do it. So it would be, oh, let me lose your card in the deck. Oh, you know what? Let's further lose it in the deck. So if you put a delay between, this and, just do that, or, straighten your tie, whatever, or, dust off some stuff. But if you put a delay between it lost in the deck to the cut, it kind of justifies, oh yeah, let me further lose it in the deck kind of thing. Yeah, Frank Garcia taught me about internal dialogue. He said, if you say to yourself while you're doing a move or a sleight what you want the audience to think, they're more likely to think it because of your attitude is that internal voice. So that's the palm. I'm going to do it for you standing up so you'll see the angles, so you're not going to be afraid of it. Now, obviously, this angle is covered with this hand. Bottom is going to flash because it's the bottom palm. You've seen it from the front. So I'm going to do it for you this time from the side, which is you would assume is the worst possible angle. So here's a jack of diamond. You lose it in the middle of the deck. You show the jack of diamond. You lose it. You cut the deck. And you just palm the jack of diamonds right out. So even the worst possible angle is very, very clean. So I gave this a name as well. It's called what do I call it? It's called the spring palm. So this is the spring palm. Everything else was the bubble palm. And that's the spring palm. That was the end of the lecture, but I do have a couple of quick things I want to do or say, if that's okay, but unless we have any other questions.
No, just one person wrote down, did Meir just invent a self-working ambitious pop-up move with a spectator placing the bend in the car for you? Laughing out loud.
Sure, why not? I'll take the credit. First, I put this out in the 80s. It was invented by Jeff Stewart. It's probably one of my best-selling things. Let me raise this a little bit. Look, nothing on my hand. There's nothing over here, nothing over here. If I snap my fingers, a coin appears. In this case, it's a US half dollar. Keep an eye on this half dollar, because just like that, it's going to completely vanish. It's not over here. It's not over here. It's completely gone. So that's called Now You See It, Now You Don't. It comes with a gimmick that you attach to any flat, small object like a coin. It comes with a 1-hour DVD that teaches you exactly what I just did. It also teaches like 5 or 6 other things you could do with it. It also demonstrates 20 items you could do with it on the DVD. There's also a 32-page book in there that shows you 50 things you can do with this. It's Now You See It, Now You Don't. I should also mention, I almost forgot, the Magician's Badge is also a money clip. It's a money clip, so this allows you to put it on your jacket. Some people have done that. I like to put it on my belt. That way I could flash it if somebody says, hey, how'd you do that? I say, oh, I'm a magician. It's really cool for that. Let me tell you a quick story. The second to last magic convention I went to, and I assume some of you were there as well, was the SAM convention in Las Vegas in January. And I sold one of these magician badges to a gentleman, and he put it in his wallet. And the next morning he went to Starbucks, which was right underneath the dealer's room. And he went to Starbucks, he ordered a cup of coffee, and he opened his wallet, ready to pay for the coffee. The person behind the counter sees this badge and says, the coffee is on us, sir. Thank you for your service. So I thought that was like a great story. I'm not recommending you use this to get out of speeding tickets. I'm sorry, because remember, it's illegal to impersonate a magician. I'm going to shut down the lecture. I'm going to end the lecture. I do want to tell you one other thing. I've gone through a lot of things. I talked about giving gifts away. And I'd like to tell you where, a lot of people talk about giving gifts. But when I was young, I used to hang around in bars, and I used to practice my card tricks there. So a few times they asked me after the signed card trick, whatever ambitious card or whatever I was doing, they said, can I have the card? And I said, sure. And a few times they said, oh, can you sign the back, like an autograph? I don't know. So I did that a few times, and then I started doing it more and more and giving away these cards. And I didn't realize what was happening. Maybe I'm dense. But a few months go by, and the same thing happens again. It's like even like a year later, somebody comes in to the thing and he sees me and he opens his wallet and look, that card, remember the card that I signed and you signed? And he would describe what trick I did for that person. Or a woman would come in and open her purse. Oh, look, I still have that card. Remember that when you took it and it would jump to the top or appeared under the napkin or whatever I did, or under the ashtray. Or sometimes a year would go by and somebody would walk into the bar reading a book, a novel, and they were using that card as a bookmark. And they too would tell me what I did with that card. And I realized, this is like, being memorable is so important beyond even likable. And by giving them a souvenir that you actually used in your magic, they're not just going to remember you every time they look at this. They're going to remember what you did every time they look at this. Now, I was very, very lucky. When I was young, I came out with my finger routine, and that was a memorable routine at the time. So magicians remembered me because of it, and also lay people remembered me because of the guy that made his fingers disappear. But I always was conscious about how can you be memorable. So giving away gifts is not only makes you likable, it also makes you memorable. Now, I'd like to close this lecture the same way I close my stage shows. On stage, I have a large version of this, but I also, is there a question? I'm sorry.
No.
So I sell a close-up version of this, which how I close my stage version. People always ask me why I do magic for a living, and that's why I carry this with me. It explains why I'm a magician. because being an entertainer is a unique opportunity which lets you bring joy into your lives. So if I can bring a little happiness into your life, I will, because there's nothing that makes me feel better. And I mean that sincerely. I really do. You two have been a wonderful audience. I really appreciate everybody that came here today. I mean, this is the best non-interactive lecture I've ever did. And especially, I love doing this for the SAM, the first magic club I ever joined. My favorite magic club in all of magic. It's like the best magic club in the history of magic clubs. I love all of you really, really a lot. So this is how I end my stage act with a large version. It's a Jeff Stewart idea. I bought the rights to it and put it out. Originally, it was in cardboard that was laminated. This is made out of plastic. But at the end of the show, what I do is after this gets the first laugh, I start embellishing like I just did. So the person who was sitting there the whole time, I said, I loved you. You were my favorite audience phantom because you made me work really hard. I love you. You didn't laugh or smile or applaud at all. I love you. And I keep making stuff up about different people in the audience and how I love them. And every time I say I love them and I care about them and they were the best, I keep pointing at this. And that laughter at the end of the show kind of multiplies because they just keep laughing at the same joke over and over again. So that's called the BS board. That's my lecture. Let's just recap what just happened. And then I'm going to give you that link that's where you're going to get the free stuff. So we started the lecture by me showing you my magician's badge. Oh, by the way, here's an Easter egg. I don't really tell this to too many people, but you know, because the SAM is my favorite magic organization, what happens is that the two Japanese coins on this magician's badge, it's an Easter egg. You see right here in Japanese characters is my name, Meir, and over here in the Japanese character is Akemi, which is the artist who designed this. So Akemi and Meir. So if this ever gets knocked off, our names will always be associated with this. So let me tell you, we started with a magician's badge. I did the Mr. Clean joke nobody laughed at. I did the Willy Willy joke nobody laughed at. But it's really not your fault. You could have laughed. I just didn't know it. Then I showed you about my latest release, James Swain's Capitulating Queens. I did the Amazing Jumping Arrow. I did the Royalistic. I did the Wonder Bill, the dollar bill stuff. I told you how to get your own bag of tricks. I did the card marks. I did the card marks. I did the Now You See It, Now You Don't. 52 Thoughts, the thing with the gags and the killer mentalism thing. I did the BS board, you know, this thing, the BS board, and I'm leaving stuff out. Oh, what else? Oh yeah, the dice trick. I did the dice trick. I did. Yeah, I talked about the money thing. I talked about carrying coins with you. Oh yeah, the twisting effect. And of course, the palming thing, the bubble palm and the controls at the beginning. That was like, I never counted, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things. What else? Oh yeah, I told you, you know, larger motion, hiding, secret motion, very important thing. I told you when you do magic, you should be a good magician. You should be interesting. You should be liked. And I gave you tips on how to do that. That's really my lecture, and I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoy it. It will be archived forever, way longer than I'll be around. So if you're seeing this in the future, I hope to grow my hair back. This is the link. You'll need to do a screenshot or a photograph of it, or Joel, you could even type it on the screen if it's possible. I don't know.
Yep, doing it now.
It's mymagic.com/free/tricks. mymagic.com/free/tricks. But don't go there yet because there's some very important information I need to tell you about this page. First, when you get to this page, because if you don't listen to this part, you're not going to get the cool stuff. So when you get to this page, I first thank you for attending the lecture, and I really mean it. You know, we're taking time out of your day or night or whenever you're watching this. I really appreciate it. Under that, I kind of ask you to sign up for my newsletter. And really, the main reason I'm doing these lectures for free is I want you to sign up for my newsletter. And the way to sign up for the newsletter is simple. It'll say sign up, click here. You have to click here. It'll take you to another page. And on that page, you have to give me your email address, first name, last name, and hit subscribe. But it's not over yet because you're not really subscribed yet. This is very important. You're now going to get an email from me telling you, do you really want to subscribe to Meir's newsletter? And you have to say yes. If you don't say yes, you're not subscribed. So you have to do that. This keeps a lot of people that are not magicians away from my mailing list. And the reason I'm doing this, I'll give you a marketing tip. One of the best ways to increase your business is to increase the size of your customer base. So even though you're not my customers yet, by signing up for my newsletters, which, by the way, are very similar to this lecture. It's just like my brain spitting out words and wherever they fall, like comedy, jokes, kidding around, teaching tricks sometimes, talking about what's going on in the world, whatever. The best way, like I said, is to increase your customer base. And once you sign up for my newsletter, you all become a potential customer. So really, I'm doing this to grow my business. It's not that I'm a nice guy. I'm sorry. But beyond that, there's a list of all these products. And every one of them reminds you what it was. There's a photo there. And if you want to buy it, you click here. You don't have to buy it. But if you do, I figured out how to give you a discount. So this is only good for the following week. So you have basically 7 days from this second, the live people mostly, is if you start a purchase from this page by clicking here on any of these products, when you get to my main page, there's going to be a green line that says a coupon has just been added to your shopping cart. If you don't see that green line that says a coupon was added to your shopping cart, start over. You want that in there, okay? This will automatically give you 10% off your entire purchase. You could buy everything on the site. You're getting straight 10% off everything. I have over 150 video downloads. 10% off everything if you get there within the next 7 days. After that, it goes to regular price. Beneath that, I promised you there were 2 videos. Those videos will only be there for the next 7 days. One of them is the customized twists. You're welcome to watch it. It'll be there, like I said, for about 7 days. It teaches you a lot more than I was able to do here because of the details. This video is exclusive to you right now because I will be putting it out as a download sometime in the future, and a link would be on this page in its place. The next thing is the 6-to-1 dice routine in great detail. It shows you how to practice it. And that video is there for the next 7 days. Then it disappears. You'll have to buy it after that. I'm sorry, but very inexpensive, like the price of a cup of coffee. Beneath that, there's a big giant button that says, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, because like I said, that's really the most important thing to me. I hope you enjoyed this. You've been a terrific group to work for. SAM really was the first organization I ever became a member of. A lot of my friends in magic, for all these years, I met at the SAM meetings around New York, and I really appreciate all the support the SAM, both locally and nationally, has done for me, been for me. So thank you very, very much for attending my Bag of Tricks lecture.
Quick question, Meir. If they're already a subscriber, they still need to go to that.
No. If you're already subscribed, I love you already. You don't have to do anything to make me love you more.
Okay.
I have a question. If we get to the page, will they be able to download those for the next 7 weeks, or just watch them?
No, just watch it. Just watch it. What do you want for free? Come on.
Got to ask the hard questions.
Man, this was absolutely phenomenal. I want to thank you so much. People just go to that site. Just subscribe. It's unbelievable. Fantastic. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight. And we'll see you next week on Assembly V1.1. Bye, everybody.